If you're not sure, ask someone who is. Gratitude is a container for all emotions. It is a superpower. What's up, everybody? Welcome to a special episode of the Strength Connection podcast, celebrating a full year of connection. Over 130 episodes done since this first came into inception, and now over 100 episodes just in 2022. And I'm going to share some insights, some experiences, and most of all, the lessons that I learned over this time. So first off, thank you so much for being a part of this year. If you've listened since the beginning, phenomenal. If you found this along the way, thank you so much. I hope it's been a great value to you. And we're going to dive into quite a bit of stuff here as quick as possible, just for the sake of time. But first, I can't say enough in this time how grateful I am for the listeners, for the feedback that I've got on the podcast, and I'm so excited for moving forward with this. To be honest, this was a very much a passion project to kick off with. I wanted to give a little bit of insight into why I started this podcast, how this came into inception, if you haven't really heard the origin story of this before, and then dive into the lesson. So to begin with, to be honest, this was something that me and my former partner, Chris Abbott, we decided to just jump on the mic one day. We had the first title of the podcast was Stories Beyond the Bell. It was something that in the midst of the COVID pandemic in 2020, we as a small team were just kind of chatting every day about just stuff, talking about strength, talking about what we're working on, which would eventually get into things like stoicism, things going on in our life, just sharing more experiences. And one of the coaches that we had as they were hearing this is like, you guys, I don't think she said we're good at talking, but she says, you guys like talking. Maybe you should start a podcast. And we both kind of just looked at each other like, let's give it a shot. So we did it for a short period of time, we thought was a way of promoting the things we were doing in the COVID lockdown. And then it was a lot of time commitment after just doing a few episodes. And then shortly afterwards, somebody reached out asking if we were going to do more because they really enjoyed the podcast. And we both decided at the time, like, let's do it. So we started interviewing people. We did a bunch of them, which was the Breakthrough Secrets podcast. And then in around August of 2021 was the time when we had some crucial conversations that decided to part ways. And I built my own business and started the new podcast, The Strength Connection. To begin with, I didn't know if I wanted to or capable of doing a solo podcast. I wasn't sure if that was a route that I wanted to go. It was one of those times in the mix of, a lot of uncertainty, but I was like, well, let me just give it a shot, get rolling. I had a good friend, one of my great mentors, Fabio Zonin, was my first ever guest on the podcast. And no joke, within 5 minutes of that episode and us conversing, I was like, this is exactly what I wanted to do. And the mission behind it was really to share stories and insights from the best of the best on not just the physical side of strength, but the mental and the spiritual, and realizing that everything is so connected in everything that we do. And this is really the key in the pathway to strength, joy, fulfillment, which we're all aspiring to do in our lives. And going back through these episodes, I knew I wanted to do a solo episode to close out 2022, start a brand new year in 2023, and get into some of the lessons and the insights from it. To be honest, it was very overwhelming going back through all of the episodes, all of the snippets and the phrases, the quotes that came out from connecting with so many people this year. I didn't realize, honestly, I really fully didn't realize how impactful this podcast has been for me. And then going back through the feedback that I received from many of you as the listeners of things that you picked up, things that you've incorporated into your own lives and training. It's truly, truly powerful. It's a very cliche term, but it's true. Sometimes you're so deep into the forest, you can't see the trees. I was definitely in that zone. And I'm so grateful that I'm able to do this and dive into this. So I'm going to get into these lessons quickly. There's 42 lessons I wanted to go over with. Why 42? Because I'm a contrarian in many ways. I didn't want to do it in just 10 lessons, how to take 100 episodes and bring those into 10 lessons. I thought was very disingenuous. I actually had over 60 of these that I broke down and kind of put together. So without further ado, these are the 42 lessons of connections that I went into this year from these different conversations and different experiences gone through. This is in no order. It's not one is more important than 42. It is just how these came about. And I'm going to go through them relatively quickly for, as I said, for your sake and for mine. So we're not here for 3 hours right here. So lesson number 1, check in with yourself before you check in with the world. This has been a staple that has been so impactful for me. If you haven't read Mathew McConaughey's book, Greenlights, he coins this phrase in there, from starting your day off, checking in with yourself before you dive into every other aspect of your life, into your other responsibilities. This is one of the most impactful things ever. And everybody I talk to who has been an aspiring person in success, they do the exact same thing. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, keep promises to yourself. Learn to trust yourself. Okay, the biggest thing that I found from people who are not only uber successful, that are continuing to be successful well past what you would say is just kind of, standardized, is they keep promises to themselves. If they say that they're going to do something, they get it done. This is one of the greatest lessons, no matter what level that you're at. If you're a beginner, if you're an intermediate, if you're advanced, well into mastery in your life, if you learn to keep promises to yourself and learn to be a trustworthy person in your own mind, in your own subconscious, you are absolutely unstoppable. Okay. Number 3, when you conclude, you stop seeking. Shout out to Carrie Campbell on this. This is one of my favorite phrases that I heard. When we believe wholeheartedly that this is the way to do something and we stop seeking out other answers, we rob ourselves of things that could be huge insights into our lives. Okay. I've learned over this year to not conclude on virtually anything. Okay. From talking to people in so many different aspects of strength, they have different levels, they have different ways that they interpret different things, and there is no one set way to be successful. Okay, the only way to find your true best way is to be open to all opportunities. Okay. Lesson number 4, gratitude is a container for all emotions. It is a superpower. Okay, I cannot stress this enough. If you do not have a gratitude practice, I would urge you to do one. You can do it through breath work. You could do it through journaling. Oftentimes, I thought that gratitude was an emotion, something that you feel. What I realized over this year is that gratitude is a container for everything else. If you default to gratitude and you bottleneck everything through the feeling of gratitude, it is an ultimate superpower. You can find the light in everything that you do, which ultimately will help you in literally everything that goes on in your life. Okay. Number 5, there is no substitute for discipline. It is a foundational must. Okay, this was actually something that hit me during this year, talking with many different people. I think intuitive training is one of the greatest things that you can do personally for your life. You need to build a foundation of discipline down. So specifically, if you're a beginner in anything, physical training, into mindset, into starting a brand new business, doing something you haven't done before, you have to build the discipline down first. Once you get that down, it opens up all the other creative aspects that we all want to get to. Okay, so there is no substitute for discipline. Okay. Number 6, read books. Okay. I cannot stress this enough. Okay. If you want to learn more, if you want to be at the top of your field, if you want to be as articulate as possible in everything that you do, you need to read. Okay. Read as much as possible. Spend some time, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour a day. Specifically, if you want to be a master in something, you need to be reading every single day on it. Not only does it help you with just your overall intellect and knowledge, but it helps in your articulation. If you want to get into writing, this is the best thing possible. Number 7, read fiction. Okay. I thought this was a perfect complement to 6. Okay. I was one of those people for a long time. All I did was read nonfiction. I just filled my head with as much knowledge from other people as possible. I think it's great to have nonfiction books, biographies, new things that are coming out to keep up on current data. But reading fiction, just good stories, is one of the best things to do. Okay. We watch Netflix 1.5 million times a year, right? It's worth it to dive into a good fiction book. I can recommend Patrick Rothfuss' Name of the Wind, one of the best books that I read this year in fiction. Also, any of Jack Carr's books with Jack Reese. You probably saw the Amazon Prime series. Absolute phenomenal books. Okay, but whatever it is, whatever genre that you like, adding fiction in, if you're a big reader along with your nonfiction, I think it's an absolute great thing to do. Number 8, find a way. There is always one. Okay. I'm going to shout out to Danny Sawai on this. When I had Danny on the podcast, it was one of the first episodes. He told me all about the story of during lockdown and they couldn't go indoors anymore. He took his entire infrastructure of his gym, the entire floor plan, and he built it outside, built a canopy over the top so people could still go to the gym. It was outside. They had all the 6-foot rules and everything like that. And it was one of the most interesting stories that I heard of, no matter what's going on, no matter what obstacles pop up in your path, there is a way. You just have to find it. Okay. Lesson number 9, do your best, then get out of the way. Okay. This was something that was actually recently, I'll shout out to Rossmo here. Okay. We had talked about this in detail. So often there's always something else that you can do. If you're a business person, an entrepreneur, if you have a strength pass that you're looking on, there is always more to do. Okay. Totally get it. Part of the yin and yang of that is doing what you need to do and then get out of the way. Surrender to the fact that the universe has your back. If you're doing the right things and you're doing your best, then you don't need to do more. Okay. Step back. Okay. Stop striving. Get out of your own way. Okay. Number 10, breathing practice makes a bigger impact than anything. Okay. If you don't do a breath practice, okay, then I urge you to do one. Okay. If you listen to the episodes I did with Patrick McGowan or with Dave Whitley on the Wim Hof method, okay, there's a lot of different methods out there. Breathing is the first foundational thing that we do in our physiology. Okay. If you read Jay Shetty's book, when he talks about being a teacher and a monk, they teach their 5-year-olds how to breathe properly. Okay. It's the first thing that we're going to do. It's the last thing that we're going to do in our life. Learn to breathe properly. Okay. This is great for physical, mental, and spiritual strength. Okay. Lesson number 11, see what happens. Okay. I'm going to shout out to my good friend, Coach Tyler Wall here. Okay. If there's any in time of obstacles, if you have mental fog, if you don't know what area that you need to go in, okay, try something and see what happens. This is a phrase that Tyler told me about that I think is great. If you try anything, just go into it and be like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Okay. It opens you up into all opportunities. Okay. It's a phenomenal phrase just to add into your repertoire if you have that mental drain and you're not sure what direction to go in. Okay. Lesson number 12, the more you prepare, the more you can wing it. Okay. This is something I learned specifically in podcasting this year and doing interviews. Okay. So many people think that if you have a creative nature, you can just go in and you can just wing it. The more you prepare for something, specifically a conversation or communication, the more it leaves you open to being creative. The more I've prepared and been ready for conversations that I had or speaking events or even conversations with clients, and the more I was able to be free in the moment. Okay. Winging it is not a thing. Okay. You need to do the due diligence of preparing and everything that you do the best. That will allow you to be as free as possible, because if you go into a rant and you go off course, you know exactly how to get back on track afterwards. Okay. The more you prepare, the more you can wing it. Lesson number 13, go to fucking sleep. Okay. Sorry to drop the F-bomb in here, but this is the biggest thing. There's so much talk about recovery out there, about every different thing of how do I recover from this? How do I recover from that? Go to sleep, get into get into a quality sleep routine. Okay. If it's something that's challenging for you, work on it. I've had many people this year on the podcast who are sleep experts. Shout out to Dr. Allison Brager, who works with the Army on this. Like, there is no better performance enhancing drug than getting quality sleep. It literally benefits everything that we possibly do. Okay. So if you're struggling with any aspect of your strength work on your sleep first. Okay. Lesson number 14, ask, do I need to know more or do I need to use what I know better? Shout out to Brian Grasso on this. This is a question that he asked me that I think is absolutely brilliant. If you put this into your repertoire, it is absolutely beautiful. So often when we are lost or when we have struggles, we believe that we need to seek out another book, to listen to another podcast, to sign up for another course, because that is going to be the savior of knowledge that's going to get us what we need to do. Oftentimes, if you just ask, do I need to know more or do I need to use what I know better? Okay. If you're an adult, if you've been doing this for a while, if you've been working on your own self-development and growth and strength, you probably know way more than you actually need to. You need to use it better. Lesson number 15, asked, am I seeking inspiration or am I seeking information? This goes perfectly into the last one that I did. Another shout out to Carrie Campbell on this. So Oftentimes, we're searching out more information because we think that we need to know more. In fact, we're just looking for an inspiring thought to get into. If you're listening to a specific podcast or reading another book, if you ask this question before of what is my intention of going into this, you're becoming more proactive versus reactive. So if you're going into stuff where you're trying to gain knowledge, you're trying to push yourself forward, ask, am I seeking inspiration or am I seeking information? Number 16, study the science. I'm going to shout out to my good friend, Antonio Scolante on this. Okay. Antonio is one of my favorite people to really dive into the science of strength and conditioning. He's absolutely genius guy. So often in the coaching world, it's been so deep into the art of it, of the communication that we do. The science is very important. Okay. The more you know the science behind it, the more you can get into the art. I think it is a great balance of yin and yang, but if you're brand new into something, understand the empirical data just as much as all the other aspects of the artistic creativity that comes with it. So study the science. It's there, it's out there. Do your due diligence, get your head in the books and learn it. Okay. Number 17, get out of your head. Okay. This is a ode to documenting or journaling. Okay. If you followed this for a while, you know I am an avid journaler and absolutely love writing things down. But I've learned this year is it's not the only way to do it. Okay. You can do voice recordings. You can speak it out into the ether. You can talk to another friend or a coach. You can use anything that you need to as a diary or a journal. But the important thing is the best thing about journaling is you clear the clutter out of your mind. Okay. Of having some practice where you can just get the thoughts out of your head. The first thoughts that we have that go into our head are often not the things that are the best things for us. Okay. There's a lot of clutter. There's a lot of fog that goes in. Journaling and documenting is the best way to clear that out and get it out of your head. I'll probably say this for the next 30 years of what I do here. Get all this clutter out of your own head, document a journal, whichever way suits you best and what speaks to you. Number 18, flow is natural. We are in the way. Okay. This is a personal quote from Sifu Singh, still one of my deepest conversations that I've had on the podcast when we talked about flow state and peace. So often there's so many things out there of how do I find my flow? How do I find peace in my life? The reality is those are natural states. It's the obstacles that we put in our own way from our own self-doubt, our own negative self-talk, our own just mindset that we have that gets in our own way. This comes back into surrendering the fact that the universe has your back. Get out of your own way. Okay. So if you're looking for flow, if you're looking for peace of mind, if you're searching out for it, recognize that that is actually your natural state. What is in the way that is preventing you from being there all the time? Okay. Number 19, leverage your motivation. I'm going to shout out to Dr. Lisa Lewis on this. Dr. Lisa was one of the great people that I talked to about the psychology and the physical side of strength together. She has a great program called Psych Skills for Fit Pros, actually teaching the psychology for fitness professionals who are getting in and working with clients. There's a downgrade and I guess a almost demonizing of the term motivation because of discipline is vastly more important, of having the discipline down, not relying on your motivation. I totally understand. However, motivation is not nothing. If you're highly motivated, if you have a good energy towards motivation, leverage that at the time. That might be a time that you can push it a little bit more. That might be a time that you can add some more things into your life. If you're a coach and you have clients who are highly motivated, leverage that motivation right now. Okay. Get as much out of it as you can because you know that that can phase. Teach the discipline aspects of it, but don't just throw motivation away as a bullshit feeling. It is something. When you are motivated, you can get a lot more stuff done. Okay. Lesson number 20, minimalism doesn't mean minimal effort. Okay. There's another minimalism. It's one of those sexy terms out there of just limiting the amount of exercises that you do. Often it's been misconstrued of you don't need to do as much to get the results that you're looking for. This is absolute bullshit. Okay. If you're a minimalist by heart, I believe that I am. That's why I do hard style kettlebell training. I do a few exercises and focus on mastering them and doing them very well. You still need to get your volume in. You still need to get those tough days in. Okay. And this is one of those things that's gone on with the short-term programs with, oh, I can get a workout in 15, 20 minutes. Yeah, absolutely. You can. Okay. Geoff Neupert with his programming and complexes has proven that over and over again. If you think that it's easy, go try one of Geoff's complexes in his work, kettlebell muscle. Okay. Minimalism does not mean minimal effort. Lesson number 21, if you're not sure, ask someone who is. I'm going to shout out to Shane Farmer on this one. Shane is the owner of Dark Horse Rowing. We had a phenomenal conversation out there. And one of the things that was really cool that Shane talked about with me was when he was early on in life, he really was unclear about what he wanted to do, what avenue he wanted to take. And instead of just kind of diving internal into himself and, what am I interested in? What are my strengths, which is naturally what we do. He just started reaching out to people that he knew that were successful in different fields and said, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee and just ask you about what you do? Just going out and just asking people who are deep in their business. Okay. So often we seek to things like books and podcasts because there's so much knowledge out there. The greatest things that you can do is go talk to somebody who's actually living that right now. It might be something that you realize, wow, I really want to do that, or I don't want to do that at all. You're going to get a lot more clarity from actually talking to a human being. Okay. So if you're not sure, ask someone who is. Lesson number 22, what you say matters, especially to yourself. Okay. When I talk with Dax Moy and his work with making miracles, it was the deepest thing of our internal language that we use for ourselves is more important than anything. What you say matters to yourself more than anything else. Okay. So even words like I need to, or I have to create resistance right away. If you change those words into I get to, I can, I want to, you think that it's a small thing in the day, you actually change that over into your default mode. It does so many different things for your success. I can't even, put them into any like empirical data. It will just absolutely change your life. Shout out to Dax Moy. Dax, you're absolutely amazing. Number 23, it will take longer than you think. Okay. This is to everything. If you think it's going to take 3 months, it's going to take a year. If you think it's going to take a year, it's going to take 3 to 5 years. If you think it's going to take 3 years, it's probably going to take 10 years. When I talk with Jerzy Gregorick, who is one of the greatest Olympic lifting coaches in the world, he's still doing it this day in his late, I think he's in his 70s now, from it. He said when he first got into it, there was a world-renowned Olympic coach who saw him and said, yeah, you got some pretty good, technique. Keep doing it for 10 years. You'll probably turn into a good lifter. Said that right off the bat, 10 years. We have so many 30-day, 90-day, 6-week, 12-week based programs thinking that that's going to solve everything. It's not. It's going to take way longer than you think. Lesson number 24, you will get to a point where doing isn't enough. Okay. If you're a beginner and you're just getting into it, following a set plan, following a structure, building the discipline up is great. Eventually, you're going to get to a point, though, where you're going to graduate from those early on things that gave you success right off the bat. Okay. When you're just getting into it, doing is fine. Just do it, build a habit. But then you get to a point where that's not enough anymore. Could be a very challenging and very confusing time for so many people. This is where things like intuitive training comes in at this point. Okay. Building more self-awareness, understanding what your RPEs are. Okay. And strength training is rate of perceived exertion. You can use the RPE scale in anything that you do. Okay. So first build the discipline, but you will get to a point where just blindly following programs is not enough anymore. You need to dive deeper. If you want to continue and build your success and build your growth, you need to go into your own self-awareness, start building your own intuition. Lesson number 25, get out of the automatic zone. Shout out to Diane Webb. Diane's a great French psychotherapist, works specifically with trauma. One of the things that we talked about was not getting into that automatic zone of just going through the day, ho-hum, just same shit, different day type stuff. What you realized in this when we were talking is so much of our day is built around routine. Eating breakfast, putting on our shoes, driving our car, all the little things that we do that we think are not important, that's actually going to make up the majority of your time. So actually being present and being aware in all areas of what you're doing, even spending some practice of doing this. I've had clients that we've done this, in our practice of like when you sit down and eat, try and be as present as possible. Feel the fork in your hand, actually smell the food, the temperature of it, actually feel the texture of it. How does your body feel sitting in the chair? Everything that you do, you realize all these little monotonous things that we do throughout the day actually makes up such a huge chunk of what we do in our lives. Okay, get out of the automatic zone. Lesson number 26, if you don't have hard days, you don't need recovery days. Okay, so many times I've talked with great strength experts on this podcast, and we talked about this. There's so much talk about recovery days. What do I need to do to recover XYZ? You need to train hard first. You need to push your body, okay? You need to push it. Figure out how long you can work on the mental side. Figure out how much your body can stress. Sometimes you need to challenge yourself. If you don't have hard days, don't worry about recovery days, okay? Lesson number 27, if you do have hard days, make sure you have easy days. Okay. This is the flip side of that. If you are pushing it really hard and you know how to push to that, RPE that's super high, then you absolutely need easy days. Okay. Shout out to my coach, Brett Jones, who said, he's like, I'm strong enough to really injure myself. The stronger you get, the more recovery is going to play into that factor. Okay. Again, it gets to a point where doing is not enough. You need to make sure that you're putting in those recovery days, having a good recovery technique down in your easy days if you are pushing it hard and you've built up that discipline. Okay. Lesson number 28, imagine your outcome every single day. Imagination theater of actually sitting down, closing your eyes and envisioning the exact goal and the desire of what you're aiming for in your life. There's a thing imagination theater learned from Brian and Carrie in their work, putting on a specific song to build that emotion, actually stepping in to what your outcome is going to be, regardless of whether it's a great day, whether you're feeling awesome or whether it's a really bad day. Imagining this, putting this thought into your head like it's already happened. This is one of the greatest things you can do for getting your mind right and doing the things that you need to do every single day. Right? Lesson number 29, learn how to learn first. Okay. When I talked with Greg Goodhart, the learning coach, this was one of my great conversations over this summer, is we talked about how we learn. It's not something that we are taught in many different things. So often we just have a goal and we start going into action plans of doing things. What he does, and he said, is you learn how to actually learn the system of doing something first. If you learn how to learn, then it doesn't matter how talented or naturally gifted you might be. You're going to be able to get to the absolute best that you can be if you learn how to learn the system. Okay. Lesson number 30, you have a dark side. Don't suppress it. Okay. Done a lot of work this year and had a lot of conversations about the shadow, about embracing the negative aspects of it. This goes deeper into psychology, but is one of the most powerful things that I've done this year in my life, is actually going into the shame, into the negative parts of me that I wanted to suppress and not dive into. You can't make the right decision for yourself if you don't know that you are fully capable of making the wrong decision. When you do know that, then you're actually consciously making the right decision, and it's much, much more powerful. Right? Number 31, audit your time. Seriously, shout out to Luka Hocevar. When we talks about doing a time audit. This is something that nobody wants to do. Nobody wants to actually know how they spend their time and how much they're wasting. You take 7 days and actually audit what you're doing on a 15 minute basis. You realize how much time you actually have in your day if you're looking to gain more time and more focus in the work that you want to do. Right? Lesson number 32, compete. Challenge yourself every so often. Okay. Shout out my good friend, Danny Casey, who owns New York Weightlifting Academy. One of the best things that he does, I think, is great, is whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced in lifting, he encourages everybody that he works with to enter into a meet. It's something about having that deadline, about stepping on something like a platform, having that day when you have the lights on top of you. Okay. It doesn't have to be MGM, grand spotlights in there, but it's a moment where you're stepping up and you're challenging yourself. Okay. There's a camaraderie around it of other people that are like-minded who are challenging themselves. It's something that it gets you out of just your own humdrum kind of monotonous zone of training and actually going in and competing. Okay? Lesson number 33, ask for what you want. Don't assume it will come. Okay. So if you want something, if you want to build something, this is the law of attraction here. I think most of all is bullshit. Okay. You can't just sit down and hope these things will just naturally come to you and not put in the work. You need to ask for what you want. Okay. Anybody in sales business, if you don't ASK, you don't GET. Okay. I've built this whole podcast and had all these conversations, 99% of them from me reaching out to other people and saying, hey, I think you're really interesting. I'd love to connect with you and have a conversation. This is what I'm thinking about. And more often than not, they're like, yes, absolutely. That's great. Ask for what you want. Lesson number 34, be of service to others. Okay. It's enough said here. Okay. Don't go into your own mind. Be of service to other people. Be the best, most positive person you could be for other people. That could be the only service that you need to give, but be of service to others. I'll leave that at that. Lesson number 35, there is no scarcity of strength. One person's increase doesn't take away your ability. Okay. If somebody else is succeeding and doing great, it has absolutely nothing to do with what you are capable of doing today. Okay. Strength is an abundance aspect. Okay. There is an abundance of strength. Every single person that you talk to and work with, if they are getting stronger, it could be a net positive for everybody else around it. There is not a scarcity of how much success that you can build up in this world. Okay. This is absolutely no joke. This is a fallacy in the mindset. If you think that it's a scarce resource, it is not. Right? Lesson number 36, when you fill your own cup, you will naturally spill over into others. Fuel yourself first if you want to serve in the best way. Okay. This is the absolute definition of self-care. Okay. If you want to serve others, if you have other responsibilities, the best way that you can possibly do that is to fill your own cup first. The stronger you get, it's naturally going to spill out and impact other people. One of the coolest things that I see specifically with young parents who are, caretakers and working with a lot of other people, have a lot of responsibilities. The best thing you can do to actually do what you want to do is take care of yourself first. Number 37, scout the defense. Okay, this is so vital to do. All the plans that we have for strength training, for nutrition, for business plans, anything that we're aiming and striving to do, it is an offensive game plan. Okay, it's something that we're the quarterback and we're trying to move the ball downfield to score a touchdown. The fact, though, is that life plays a very professional defense. There are things that are going to be thrown in your path that if you are not aware of or don't think about, you're going to have to react to it and not be proactive to it. And there's a very good chance that you're going to take a loss and you're going to take a sack. And that's when people start spilling off and getting off track. You need to scout the defense. Okay. What are the things in your life that could prevent you from doing the things that you want to do this week? Not only just the general things, but what are the blitz packages? What are the things that might very rarely and very unlikely happen? Still have a game plan for them. So if they do, then you're going to see it a split second earlier, and it helps you be proactive versus reactive and take control of everything that goes on in your life. Lesson number 38, have routines, but don't rely on routines. Okay. I think it is great to have a morning routine, great to have specific things that you do, but just like getting out of the automatic zone, don't rely on them. Okay. If they start to get into an automatic position and an automatic phase where you don't feel it anymore, change it up. I've changed my morning routine over numerous times this year, from writing, from breath practice, from meditating, still getting all the things done, but changing the order up, changing the different energy of where I'm sitting on it, changing the environment up, all those different things. So have your routines, but don't rely on them. Number 39 kind of works right in with this. Set your environment up for success. Okay. So quickly now we think that we can jump right from one thing right to the next. Okay. I used to do this all the time with people who would fly in for workouts. Okay. There was not only time for physical warm up, there was no time for mental warm up. Okay. Setting your environment up. If you work from home, creating an environment on your desk where it's clear of clutter, where you can actually think, actually sit down, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, get yourself into that mindset. Okay. If you're doing meditation work, actually like pre-meditate before you meditate. Same thing with your training. Okay. If you are training, get yourself not only physically warmed up, but get your mind right. Allow 5-10 minutes, set your environment up. You're going to have such a more focused, such a more impactful session of whatever you're doing. Lesson number 40, growth is not the only biomarker of progress. Okay. This is a hard lesson to learn, specifically in the culture that we have, is we think that the more we need to grow, we need to grow, we need to grow, we need to expand and all that stuff. It's not the only biomarker of progress. Okay. Learn to be great first. Okay. Focus on being phenomenal at what you do, and growth is naturally going to come. If you think you need to expand everything and you're not growing fast enough, the one thing that growth is the only goal of what it does is cancer. Okay. That's a really harsh thing to say, but that's the only thing that it's trying to do, is grow every single day. It is not the only biomarker for progress. Get good, build your foundations, get as great as possible as you can. Growth is naturally going to come. Okay. Number 41, life is a highway. No matter what lane you're in, what speed you're going, it is all going forward. The highway of strength is something I've spoke about in all of my seminars this year, of everything that I've done with intuitive training. You need to know what your right lane, your middle lane, and your left lane days are. Okay. If you're having a struggling time, if it's very mentally draining, you can go into a right lane day. You're still making progress there. If everything's feeling really good, energized, everything's awesome, left lane, that might be a pedal to metal where you're going in. The highway is beautiful because regardless of what lane that you're in, whatever speed you're going on, everything is moving forward. Okay. So don't think you need to go pedal to the metal or a specific speed on everything. It's okay to slow it down. It's okay to speed it up. Life is a highway. Lastly, Lesson 42. This is the biggest one that I saw, and I 100% believe it is, you are meant for something bigger than yourself. I believe 100% that there is a divine path of goodness for me, and I believe there is a divine path of goodness for you, okay? We are created in this, and we are connected in ways that are not just for us to survive and just to live in this day. You are meant for something bigger than yourself. Whatever goals that you have, whatever you're doing going into 2023, it does not only impact you, it is going to impact everybody that is around you, everything that you encounter. It is not just solely your goal. By you getting stronger, by you getting more successful, by you building up your mindset, all these things, it is going to spill over into everybody else that you encounter, which will just only make everything around you better. You are meant for something bigger than yourself. So with that, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for being with me in this time. Honestly, I am beyond grateful for being able to speak with you, for you listening. If you made it to this time, thank you so much. I have so many more things that are coming in 2023. It is going to be an absolutely epic year on this show, on this podcast. For every guest that has graced me with their presence and spoken to me this year, sincerely, thank you so much. You devoting your time and giving it so freely to me and having a conversation has been one of the greatest blessings that I had. And for all of you listening, those who listen each week, those who have dove in, given me feedback, those who are silently listening in the background, it doesn't matter. Thank you so much. I love you. I appreciate you. And I will see you in the new year. Take care. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found some great value here. And if you like this episode, please drop a comment and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It does more to build the show than you can imagine. And do not forget to check out and join the Strength Connection Facebook group. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength, and it's the perfect space to explore new ideas and to share your journey. And you'll also get exclusive access to these Strength Connection Mastery seminars. It's a deep dive into the physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. So do not wait, go now. Seriously, go. All right, much love to you. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.